Good evening, adventurers. Tonight we have a tale that dates back to 2001. In our story, our protagonist joins a gaming guild at their university campus and joins in with some D&D, but then they run into a player who seems to hate them for no reason. Let's get into it. Tonight's tale is called The Elephant in the Tiny Box, or If Your Character Does That, I'll Kill Him. My university had a gaming guild where people got together monthly to play one-shot Dungeons & Dragons adventures, lay down some destruction with Warhammer 40k armies, argue loudly over whether the draw phase is supposed to come before or after the untap phase in Magic the Gathering, and network with each other to set up regular games of all of the above to play in between guild meetings. Part 1. I'm pretty sure we are still using Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, but this might have been at the very beginning of 3rd edition. This new thing had just been introduced to the guild called Living Arcana. I didn't really totally understand the concept, but the gist is that it was a series of adventures intended to be played by many groups around the country, with the stories being compiled somehow. Again, I wasn't sure then and I'm not sure now, but it sounded cool and I wanted in. The first adventure went well enough. A dungeon, a puzzle that I failed at, a magic item retrieved. Good times. It was the second adventure where things got screwy. The idea was that our characters had earned a point of favour, which was some mechanic I didn't understand, with a noble person in the first adventure and had been invited to a banquet in that person's honour. We were staying in rooms on the grounds of this guy's castle the day and night before the banquet, along with all of the other guests. Sometime during the night, an NPC knocks on the door to the party's room and asks us if we knew about the tradition of giving the host a gift before the banquet. Of course we didn't. And we didn't bring anything to give. What a faux pas! What a dishonour! Well, happily, our friendly mysterious NPC has the solution. He gives us a tiny wooden box, inside of which was a tiny elephant figurine carved in jade. Or it might have been ivory. We could give this to the noble, and nobody would have to know that we were uncultured barbarians. Hooray! All of the other players were fine with this. But my life elf cleric is 100% not fine with this. This stinks, and he doesn't trust it at all. I posit to the group that this could be a setup of some kind, and then I am roundly berated. The Dungeon Master even asks, what reason would your character have to mistrust this? I respond with, dude, have you read the setting? I'm an elf. You should be asking what reason I have to trust a house full of humans. I make several compromise suggestions, my favourite being that we chuck the elephant and give the noble a beautiful hand-carved wooden box, but nobody's budging even an inch. Finally I say, okay, how's this? I'm going to take the box and go next door, explain everything that just happened, and ask them if they know anything about the elephant. There is one player in particular who has been most vociferous in his objections to my mistrust. He spent this entire conversation acting like I'm suggesting we cover his mother in hot lead and then throw a puppy in for good measure. I utterly forget his name, but I'll call him Scruffy. Scruffy throws his pencil on the table, looks me dead in the eyes and says, if your character does that, I'm going to kill him. This guy's intensity and dedication to ignorance was seriously really frightening, and I'm a freezer on the fight or flight continuum. I sputter a bit, huff, and give back the box. Fine, forget it. Whatever. The next day at the banquet, the time for gift giving is announced. A few gifts from other people are handed out, but before our party gives theirs, I jump up and say, as an ersatz representative of the elven people, I would like to offer this gift on behalf of my kind, a healing potion from my character's inventory. May our host live a long life and never need it. I get several glares from our party. Scruffy's being the most intimidating, but the deed is done. Scruffy gets up next and presents the elephant box on behalf of the rest of the group. The noble opens the box. There's a collective gasp amongst the other guests. A woman faints. The noble turns red and gets super pissed off. Scruffy belatedly tries to explain the circumstances behind the box, but it's too late, and the noble isn't having any of it. Everyone but me loses their favour point, and are shunned by the guests for the rest of the adventure. Part 2, Scruffy the DM. The rest of the adventure happened, The only thing I remember is that my cleric picked up a cursed sword that had a chance of making me go all ragey in combat, which I was actually stoked to roll with because it was a great role-playing opportunity, and we all went our separate ways for the night. The next guild meeting coincided with the release of the next Living Arcana module, so I brought my elf along for this ride. This time though, Scruffy was the DM. I wasn't happy about this, but my general life philosophy is that everyone has a bad day now and again, and I want to be everyone's friend, and I assume everyone wants to be my friend, and I have no idea how I rubbed him so raw last time, and I'm sure it was just a mistake or a miscommunication, so this will be fine. Well... okay, so it was mostly fine. At least until another situation came up where I felt the need to creatively problem solve. The party is, for some reason I don't remember, carefully exploring a sewer, using the convenient stone path that's just above the murky water. Gross. As we approach a four-way junction, tentacles spring from the river of filth and attack. It's an Otyugh. After 5 or 6 rounds, it's clear we're getting our asses royally kicked. The Otyugh is under the murky, messy water, so we have a -4 to hit for full concealment on the body. We can attack the tentacles, but they have an amazing armor class due to them being, well, flimsy, wiggly tentacles. We're all level 2, maybe 3 at most. And this is Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, where Thaco is king. I'm rolling great against my cursed sword, but that's the only time double-digit numbers seem to be coming up on our d20s. It's turning into a massacre. So, I'm almost out of healing, and we've done maybe 1 hit point's worth of damage to the Otyugh, and I start trying to figure out how to even this playing field. Idea. I cast light on one of our archer's arrows and have him fire it into the water. Hit or miss, I reason the light will remove the concealment and we can get this meat grinder running. Scruffy says, you fire the arrow into the water, the filth is too thick to see the light. Whoa. That's a lot of poop. That's a lot of poop that's been sitting down here, decomposing for quite a while. Idea. Oh, I got it. I asked the wizard to cast Burning Hands on the water. If there's so much decomposing mess that we can't even see a light spell at 4 feet deep, then it has to be flammable. At least on the surface. We'll burn the monster out. Scruffy says the fire has no effect. What? Really? Duh, you can't burn water. The ensuing argument about the light-blocking qualities of non-flammable decomposing feces only lasted about 5 minutes before Scruffy's intensity reared up again, and in the face of those crazy eyes, I gave up. I pretty much disconnected from the rest of the adventure. We did manage to defeat the Otyugh in the end. I don't remember how, except that I was completely out of spells for the rest of the game. We finished the module, and I moped my way back to my dorm. I showed up for the next guild meeting, sans poop-covered elf cleric, because the next Living Arcana adventure hadn't dropped yet. A buddy of mine was running some other one-shot though, so I was happy to stop by. I walked into the conference room and started looking around for my friend. I see him standing next to the door talking to Scruffy. I wave and start to go over, and Scruffy catches sight of me. He's playing? Scruffy asks sourly, then without another word, he turns and walks out. I maybe should have felt victorious, but I only felt confused and hurt. I never saw Scruffy at a guild meeting again as far as I can remember. And there we have it. Well, I think this story ended the best way it could have, assuming the writer's point of view is correct. This Scruffy guy had really been rubbed the wrong way by our writer, and it's hard to tell why, although our writer does credit themselves with trying to think creatively, so it may be perhaps that they often spent a lot of time trying to achieve something in the game, and it rubbed Scruffy the wrong way as he saw it as someone trying to hog the spotlight or something along those lines. But I guess we'll never truly know. On that note, if you're in a game and you feel compelled to say, if your character does that, I will kill them, please take a moment and consider what is getting you so worked up. Have you ever played with someone who just seemed to hate you from the get-go? What was that like? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, it helps me a bunch. That's all I have for this evening. Good night.